that they're changing my voice. So I'm going to have to go through the other types of people to help you understand why I'm Christ. I'm not trying to disrespect them. I'm trying to clarify these things because for many reasons they're trying to draw into question the obvious fact that I'm the Son of God. They've changed my voice. They've edited my videos. They changed the way I look to some degree. They try to put red on my lips covertly all the time. And they do all kinds of weirdo, kind of psychotic, homosexual-like things to try to confuse the fact that I'm Christ. By that I mean they throw gay fits, they harass me with gays, they change the sound of my voice, and so on and so forth. So on the screen you should see pictures, or one picture of several Sureño gang members from the 90s. Now in the 90s, they seem more sincere than Sureños these days do for the most part. People from across the board, have changed the way they looked, okay, to be more occult-like. So, every type of culture, they've changed the way people look in general, and they got them to go along with it for the most part. The reason why I put these gentlemen on the screen is to show you that when we're thinking about who would be the Son of God, well, certainly it wouldn't be a white person or a white Jew. You know that immediately. Why? Because, they're the neo-colonists, okay? So they're, like Captain America, they're like jocks, emos, rockers, squares, right? If you go through the list of groups, they're very plain people, very basic people. And God wants to be represented as a divine warrior. He chooses a divine warrior. His son is a divine warrior, right? We see in Exodus 15:3, Psalm 89. We see that in Psalm 106, I believe it is, where it says, who can proclaim his mighty acts, right? Who can properly represent God? So why the Lion of Judah? Why didn't they choose a jackal or a mouse? Why in Job does it say that the hawk spreads its wings by the wisdom of God? Making the hawk an animal that they're using to describe wisdom, which is seen as the first of God's work, right? Being wise, not being some kind of brute force knucklehead, but being wise, being insightful, having sense, being righteous, but also being ferocious. So when it comes to describing the Son of God, there's a certain moral intensity, a certain moral and martial intensity, a certain focused moral intensity, a certain universal pinpointing moral precision that goes into that focused moral intensity. So when we look at gang members, and in this case Hispanic gang members, be it Norteños, Sureños, Latin kings, Latin disciples, netas, what have you, they don't have a moral intensity. It has not ever been documented that any of them have a moral intensity. They're gang members. They're committed to gangs. And whoever's like them, right? In Psalm 106, it says, who is like God? Now, who isn't like God? So once we have points of references for the people who aren't like God, jocks, emos, squares, right? God is not a square. God's a warrior. A warrior is not a square. A warrior has a certain warrior grace, a true warrior, a moral warrior. A Lion of Judah. Is a lion a square? No. Is a square a lion? No. They don't have a lion spirit. So we know that Christ is not a square. That means everybody in the churches, right? They're all like squares, or they're nerds. They're, or other, which is a variation of a square, or some kind of weirdo, or some kind of basic person. So we know that the false image of Christ is false because it's like a nerd. It's like a gay kind of English and Jewish nerd. We know that Christ wouldn't be English-like when we look at the various types of English people. So we have to look at this and say, hey, why is it absurd for them to doubt that I'm Christ rather than for them to accept that I'm Christ? And it has to do with characteristics, right? The character in the story superimposed on somebody in real life who has character, and the characteristics. The character in the story, the character of a person, the characteristics. You know them by their fruits, by their actions, their deeds, and the characteristics of their deeds and the characteristics of that person. So again, I'm not trying to insult gang members. I'm not a gang member. I don't take sides in gang wars. I'm not a racial supremacist. Historically, I was very fond of Mexican people. Okay, Mexican food, what have you. Females, I'm not some kind of monster, not some kind of pervert. I just tell the truth here. So I'm going to kind of systematically rule out the different types of people using points of references like gang members. And because in California, the Surenos, there's like 200,000 Surenos there or something, and there's a lot of Hispanic gang members and crews that are like them, it was a very logical group to use. Very popular, very common, and they have certain characteristics that are common among Latino thugs, Hispanic thugs, and people like them. And we're going to be going over black gang members as well. I have this Aries Spears video that I'm going to use, a great example. And he's like a thug. Maybe he's a gang member. I think he's just a thug though, and he's a rapper or something. We're gonna get to this here.